So who were you before you were born? So you could say, oh, well, I'm the embryo in my mother's stomach before I was born. Okay, and really what the question is meaning is like, who were you before you were created as a human? Who were you? It's so amazing. I remember when I was a kid thinking about this. So I would lay in bed at night and I would wonder, for some bizarre reason, if my parents never met and my parents had children with other people, if I would still exist. And then what would I exist as? Would I be a human, or like where was I before? And I'd just go back and back and back, and I would always come to nothing in the end. My imagination would always lead me there, which was immensely terrifying and in some way liberating and loving. I'm sure a lot of us did that. Like I hear people when I go around giving talks and speak to people, I hear a lot of people speak about when they're in childhood, they begin to question the nature of reality in a very subtle way, whether it be looking up at the sky or playing with friends or questioning where a tree comes from or why birds can fly. And there is this element in us that kind of knows things lead back to nothing, but not nothing like we imagine it, like a big black hole or an idea of nothing, but it's more this place of endless possibilities, of wonder that we can't quite find. Yeah. So this question, who were you before you were born, is not something that really I should answer for you. It's an investigation that can be discovered for yourself. And the discovery is right here, right now. It's not in conditioning yourself or reconditioning yourself or you becoming a better person. Because that is something that isn't here now. The better person is an idea and a comparison to other people, to what you were before, and then this new behavior. Non-duality is talking about an exploration that happens right here, that you can find out who you were before you were born right here in the experience. And the idea of you becoming a better person, you becoming enlightened, you sort of emanating with light, you having blissful experiences, are all things that come and go now. They're not a permanent, they're an imagination that you're having. So what is it in the experience that doesn't ever come and go? And that is what you were before you were born and after you die. So what is it in our experiences that doesn't come and go? And this isn't intellectual, so non-duality is not two. Our language is in two, our language is in dualism, is in thoughts. So the answer isn't found in thoughts, the answer is found in experiencing. So what is here? I used to always say, this is it, baby. I don't say that as much anymore. This is it. Doesn't really make sense, that statement anyway. What is it? It was like more an expression of love, like this, this. So all different traditions speak about this in different way, and some would say this moment is always here. Like you never escape this moment. So the scenery changes, the people change, the colors change, the feelings change, but you never escape this moment. Like you could go to the moon and you're still in this moment. You could like do rebirthing and supersonic quantum therapy meditation, and you're still going to be in this moment. You're never going to escape this moment. So you could say, so this is why a lot of teachers say, this is it, because you don't escape this moment. But this moment also contains two other things that do not change. There is always a consciousness of this moment. There is always a perception of this moment. Otherwise, this moment wouldn't exist. So the famous Zen saying is, what is the sound of a tree? Does a tree make a sound if it falls in the forest and there's nobody there to hear it? So would this moment exist if there was no consciousness of it? The mind is like, yes, yes. But if you come back to experience, you're like, no. Thought, yes. Mind, thought says yes, but experience says no. If there's no consciousness, then there's nothing happening. There's also a sense of being. You could say an I amness. This never comes and goes. Not I am Roger, or I am Muhammad, or I am Leela. Not I am something, but the sense of being. Beingness. There is this sense of being, that this is. This is. And there is this empty looking. So all of these come together. So this moment, the empty looking consciousness, the big consciousness, not personal consciousness, not me, I'm conscious of my subconscious or anything like that, but a big consciousness. And there is the sense of I am, of beingness. This beingness, this is. So these are always here. These never leave. So what about deep sleep? In deep sleep, these leave. Come on. So that means they can't be the source. And I would say actually in deep sleep, there is not things appearing, or the memory is switched off because the body is sleeping. So there are things appearing in a way because there are sounds, like the body wakes up instantly. But because the memory is switched off, like nothing can be remembered. So there's just this sense of nothingness. And we don't really know how it's working in deep sleep, but we do know that there is consciousness there. Like there's a dreaming, there's consciousness, and then as the body's poked, the body's instantly awake. So then we'll move on to what seeking is. So the way that non-duality goes, also the way that a lot of Eastern religions go. So Buddhism, Jainism, Hinduism. I'm not really sure about Sikhism. But there is this emphasis on seeking. In Buddhism, the Buddhist groups that I was involved with, they used to call it craving. And they used to say when you lose connection with your true self, so with the consciousness, with this moment, with who you truly are, the human, so the personality structure, develops this seeking pattern, this craving pattern, where it begins to look for itself for its true self in pleasure. So as soon as it begins to lose itself, it begins to become more and more identified with believing that it's a character, it's a person, it's living in time, it's its past actions, its future actions. As soon as it becomes identified with that, there's always a sense of something missing, because there is your true self. So there is a seeking to try to get that back, but it's not a conscious thing. And they call it like a craving. It's not your natural desire. So humans are set up like mammals, like most animals on this planet, to move towards pleasure and to avoid pain. And there's nothing wrong with that. So even Ramana Maharshi would move towards pleasure. He wouldn't sit on burning fire. He wouldn't sit on an ice statue. You know, if there was a comfy bed, I'm sure he would prefer to sit on that, or a comfy sofa, as opposed to cold stone floor. He would prefer food that didn't have dog poop in it. Maybe he would prefer Indian cuisine, but maybe not. Maybe he liked pizza. As opposed to English food. Everyone outside of England, maybe not Americans, but everyone gets that nobody wants English food. But inside England, they don't trust English people to understand that our food is the butt of Europe and a lot of the world's jokes. They don't know that. I tried to make jokes to English people in the past, and they'd be a bit sensitive about their food. The rest of the world thinks that English food isn't good. I mean, can you imagine, like, you know, we had massive immigration in the 60s and 70s from India and Pakistan. And can you imagine when they came over, and this is to English people, and then they had a fry-up breakfast. Baked beans, sausages, bacon, hash browns. Did I say baked beans? Fried tomatoes, fried mushrooms. Can you imagine what they thought of that? Just for mainland Europeans, it's shocking. Can you imagine someone from Asia trying, oh, I'm going to try a bit of English this morning, have an English breakfast. Yes. I find it so funny listening to people when they try an English breakfast. And you also can get black pudding, which is fried blood as well in English breakfast. Yeah. The English delicacy. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so our natural predisposition is to move towards pleasure. So for English people, it's towards an English breakfast. For the rest of the world, they move away from an English breakfast. So that's natural. I'm not commenting about that. I'm not saying stop moving towards pleasure. I got that idea when I was younger. I thought that pleasure was bad, or anything that was too pleasurable was bad. But it's this element in craving pleasure. It's not necessarily addictive energy. It's a craving and a belief, even if it might be subconscious, that you will find happiness in that pleasure. So it might be happiness in the nice new renovated house that doesn't take 4.5 years to obtain. Or you know, looking like a supermodel, or having millions of dollars, or traveling the world, or becoming appreciated. Whatever it's more imaginational, using your imagination than it is, you know, the visceral sensation of moving towards pleasure in the moment. And it's got an energy of desperation to it. It also can feel incredibly pleasurable. So it could be like a massive motivator for people. So there can be this like high excitement when the idea of getting it arises. So this is the element that of what happens in the human. And so when the seeking starts, when that seeking begins, there then is a lot of energy invested in thoughts. It encourages abstract thinking. So my partner was telling me about a book he's reading recently where they're talking about magic mushrooms, and I'm actually going to badly quote this, but they're talking about like the use of magic mushrooms in therapy. And one of the things this therapist was saying was that part of what's happening to us in society is we're using abstract thinking a lot more rather than like sensory perception. And the separate self is definitely a form of abstract thinking, and it becomes so intense. Like we really retell our story of ourselves so often, particularly through seeking, like I'm going to get this house, I'm going to do this, I'm going to become that. You know, from a very young age, we're constantly asking what we're going to become: a mother, a father, a preacher, a actress, an actor, a hairdresser, what we're going to do, who we're going to be. And this story gets repeated and repeated, this abstract imagination. And I remember when I was younger, I can't really remember it now, but always having an image of myself in my head of what other people thought, of what I thought about myself, of what I looked like. And it was like an image combined with thoughts and ideas. I don't have that now. I sometimes have it for maybe some form of social interactions, but most of the time it's absence. I can't really remember it. But I remember when I was younger, it was like really strong, this constant story of myself and doing things to add to this story of myself. Like I believed that I had to be someone. And now that I can't even be bothered to tell my story to people that often. Sometimes like it arises. Like, I don't care what I've been and who that is now and how we arc that into a story. That also might be because I write as well. So it's like I can see how constantly we're narrating and re-narrating who we want to be, and we're pushing away who we don't want to be. So not only in the world are we seeking for all these ideals of what we want to be, also internally we're pushing away our shadow, we're pushing away our dark side, and we're trying to reside in this story of being this good person, which is an impossibility. Like none of us are good people, and society isn't separate. We're all a manifestation of this human race. We like to think we're separate, so we're like the psychopaths, the sociopaths, and the bad people are something different from our race. They're away from us, but they're not actually. They're actually a product of us. And we survive as a group. And as you become more silent and there's less identification with a separate self and with all these thoughts and ideas of yourself, I think what happens for a lot of people is you begin to become more sensitive to other people's thoughts and feelings, because you're becoming more empty of self. So there's not so much fixation on you. And as you become more empty of self, you can kind of not exactly pick up other people's thoughts and feelings like we imagine or like they present in shows and films, but there is a sense of that. Like it can be really strong, and it doesn't present itself like you would imagine. It's not like I'm now hearing somebody else's thoughts. They come in as if they're your thoughts. So you hear them thinking. So if they're thinking, I hate myself, what you hear is, I hate myself. And if they're hating themselves, like having the feeling of hating themselves, what you feel is the feeling of them hating themselves. And it's not like you suddenly like get an alarm bell and you're like, deek, 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 this is another person's feeling. You only notice it from when you go closer to that person, you can begin to feel those things. And when you begin to move away, you don't feel those things so much. Often with Khaleesi, because I spend a lot of time, the most time with Khaleesi, if she feels sick, particularly sickness actually, I can't really feel her arthritis. Oh, maybe I do actually get back pain sometimes where her arthritis is. And I do get sometimes pain in my hips. Interesting, I forgot about that. But I certainly get funny feelings around my heart because she's got heart stuff going on. But particularly sickness, I notice, because that one's really obvious. So I'll suddenly start feeling sick and then she's like, bah! And I'm like, oh, okay, we're sick, are we? And this isn't abnormal. Like, I'm not abnormal. It's not like I've got psychic powers as opposed to other people. We all do, but just because we're so often focused on ourselves, we don't realize these details of when we move into contact with people, feeling them. Could be that there's some people that don't have that and some people have it stronger, but I get a sense that all of us have it to a degree. You notice it in dog packs, like that they're so in tune, and when they hunt, they do these amazing things, which these are wild African dogs, which implies there has to be some sort of like psychic communication that's happening. So they will chase a buffalo around a big hill, a massive hill, and it's unlikely that they can do this by smell. And the buffalo, they can't predict where the buffalo is going to do, what the buffalo is going to do, but the pack will separate and they will go around the hill, which could be massive, could be 20 kilometers long. And normally I don't think dogs can smell past 20 kilometers. So a massive hill, and they all move with the buffalo to all come to a meeting point. And obviously they can't communicate like we can and be like, we're going to chase the buffalo to this spot, because the buffalo will be moving in all different directions and we'll try this way and that way. So they will encage it, and they will go massive away around and split up very far. It's fascinating. And I notice it with Khaleesi, like we can be really far away from another dog and she's having responses to that dog. You also might notice, if you've got dogs, that if your partner's coming home, you know, even 5-10 minutes before they come home, the dog starts to get aroused. And excited, like, yeah, the master is coming home. And then we used to have dogs in childhood that were like that. Khaleesi's not really like that, but she doesn't really like to show her emotions. She likes to hold the cards close to her body. Yeah. And And this is, I mean, this is a fascinating concept, because then whose emotion? So we like to say, okay, the psychopath is a bad person that's separate from us. He's outside of society, but really he's a accumulation of everyone else's thoughts and ideas. So you could say it's like the external shadow that we all carry. It's appropriate in healing from abuse to say and allocate blame, like they are a psychopath, they have done bad things, they need to be put into prison. There's a good chance they're never going to recover from that. So it's appropriate to do that. But ultimately, there is no blame. Like humanity has evolved as we're like this one creature. We're like these ants. We survive as a collective whole, and we've all got these characteristics and qualities that arise in order to help us survive better. We have this such deluded idea that we are individual souls and we're living our own individual life, and we've got to achieve greatness and goodness in order to go to an afterlife called heaven. Otherwise we go to the burning pits of hell. This is what a lot of people around the world believe, maybe more than not. And that we're this like individual entity that's acting without everybody else. We're acting solely alone, which isn't true. I even can understand why that idea has arisen, because it makes you feel like you've got more control, and it's like a self-protection. Okay, they are bad, I am not. But what happens internally when you are trying to maintain being a good person is it's like a battle in yourself. You're putting so much energy into re-narrating your story about why you're good and the other people are bad, or why you're bad. It can actually go the other way, why you're bad and the other people are good. And it's not true. There is nobody here that's good or bad. There are thoughts and ideas that are arising that aren't even yours. Like some of them are coming from genetics and past conditioning, so memory, but some of them are coming because you're picking up from other people and the people that you've lived with. Like so your parents, say, for 20 years. And then the body gets into a habit of reproducing those thoughts. Isn't it really cool? So every thought that you have had has never come from you. It's come from thousands and thousands and thousands of years of evolution of humanity. But this idea that there is a me in here that is separate, and this me in here is going to achieve happiness and freedom and move on to heaven through doing actions in life. Who is this you? And this is what I love about non-duality, is it's experiential. What's being spoken about is experiential. It is experiential. So what is the answer to it? Like, what great thing in non-duality can you do to realize this? So there isn't a you that can realize this. It's the way things are. So non-duality doesn't tend to focus on doing things to get to this. It's an unpeeling of the illusion and letting something else shine through. Like, it's not this, it's not that, it's not what you think, it's not your ideas. Who is watching that? So it's a questioning of everything you are. It's a questioning of what you believe and seeing what's left beyond all of that. What is left? Who are you? Do you have a practice that you can do, but just know that this is a practice for the person to settle down, but it isn't really a practice for you, because that's an imagination. There is me with practice. But the thing that I would advise is putting the attention in the I am, putting the attention in this moment. I am. I am. Nice.